Ladies, gentlemen and drummers of all ages, please put your hands together for the host of the Mike Dolbear Drum Show, Mr. Mike Dolbear.
Okay, welcome to the Mike Dolbear Web Show, the third show with my co-host Gill Bennet and my lovely guests Lea Mullen and Pete Lockett. I'm not too sure how this is going to go today because we've got more than one comedian on the sofa. So, guys, how are you?
Good, all good.
Very well. I'm very well.
He's considering it. Everything's very considered with us.
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I know we've got some controversial, football supporters going on, or soccer supporters for you Americans on the sofa. But down to some serious talking. So, two percussionists. So, over the last few years, how's it been for percussionists? Percussionists seem to be the first people now that get kicked off for tours or they can't afford their budgets. So, A, have you noticed that and how is that? And B, should percussionists be paid the same amount as they do, hopefully, as drummers?
Oh, of course. Well, so this, the second part of the question, we're far more important than drummers. For one, we're far more intelligent. That just goes without saying completely. Although Carlos Hercules obviously the exception because he's on later. So nothing, me and Carlos, he's a big guy, so I won't say anything about Carlos. He's very bright. But as far as percussionists are concerned, we pick all the places and make drummers usually sound good. As a drummer myself, and of course Pete's a great drummer as well, we're obviously a lot, our IQ is a lot higher than the normal drummer.
Pete, would you go along with this?
Well, we've got a lot more things to think about. We have to take. When I started playing percussion, it was like, oh, okay, it's fine. You don't have to take so many things as the drum set. But in actual fact, you just got to fill the car up. So, sometimes people say, oh, can you bring everything? And I said, well, have you got an Arctic truck? Bring everything. But, seriously speaking, I think that there's different angles with it. Obviously, we've got, percussion that we're common on, is common in the West, percussionists with a band or different things. But if you look at the world generally, and a percentage, drum set is actually much smaller as an instrument in terms of people that play it than percussion around the world. And when you travel around the world and you see, amazing world percussionists. I was at a festival last weekend in Austria, and there was a guy called Abos Kosimov playing, who's an Uzbeki player, and he just plays this one frame drum, but he just is the complete genius and an unbelievable player. And you put him alongside any drum set player, and most of them, he'd kind of blow away, really, to be honest. But so there's kind of different angles to it. I think around the world, around the world of music, percussion is actually a much bigger thing in terms of percentage than the drum set.
You started quite late. I think you were 19 years old when you started drum kit.
Yeah.
So what made you suddenly start, and why so late?
Yeah, well, music wasn't really a big part of my life up until that point. I was just walking past a drum shop and I saw a sign in the window, drum lessons, £5. And like 2 weeks later, I was in a punk band smashing my drums up after the gigs, and that was it. That's when I completely committed to, drumming, and I worked in the Portsmouth docks at the time, so I had 2 years till I was made redundant. I knew that was going to happen, and then that day I moved to London and started to pursue a career as a drum set player at that point.
And then what was the switch?
It's a very gradual switch. I did a lot of rock bands and different things, nothing particularly high profile, but I remember just completely by chance came across an Indian tabla gig. It was Zakir Hussain, actually, you've seen many times, a complete god of percussion. And I saw him by this free gig, and I was completely blown away. And then a couple of weeks later, a newspaper came through the door, fell open on the mat, one of the free newspapers, tabla lessons. So it was almost kind of like a calling. Wow. The other thing is, that was very important, the guy next to me had just been let out of, let's say he had a different way of thinking.
Okay.
And basically, if I played the drums...
Like Lee.
Like Lee. If I played the drums, basically he'd just come up and start throwing things up at my window, and literally went completely bananas outside the house. Oh. So I was like, actually, you know what? you can't hear the tabla.
So we started smashing the tablas up instead.
It is a bit like you then.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Talk about session playing. Okay, I know both of you you're currently working on a movie at the moment, playing percussion, and you've done various films. And do you find, because most drummers or producers think in the studio that they can play percussion, you don't need to bring in a percussionist? I mean,
I've worked with a lot of drummers who do say they play percussion, and obviously I've been very lucky to work with a lot of great drummers, and when their approach to percussion is very much like a drummer. I would like to say though at that point that there is definitely a place for that as well. So there's definitely a place for the way Aieto would play percussion. It's half percussion, half kit. And he plays percussion like a drummer would play it, which is great, and the way he plays it is great. But you have to be. I think you've got to be very careful on careful ground when you would actually say to a producer or somebody in the studio that you play percussion, and it's actually what's expected of you. I wouldn't go into a studio. I mean, I've got tabla, but if somebody rang me up and said you play tabla, I'd give them Pete's number. I certainly wouldn't go and say I play tabla, or I'd turn on an electronic loop.
Or you'd buy his app.
Well, you already buy that, which I have done already, which I have done.
Yeah, would you, because, I mean, recently you've just converted, well, not converted, but you've just built a little hybrid drum kit.
Yeah.
He smashed it up.
He smashed it up.
No, it's good. I added to my Remo and Zildjian and Vic Firth thing. I've got the Mapex, my new Mapex kit and those. It's kind of based slightly on the Trelock Gertu approach, where there's no kick drum as such. The kick drum is played with it's where the small tom is, and it's 12 by 2, but it just sounds massive.
I just haven't sent him a bass drum.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The
bass drum goes with the percussion. I've got that, and then the percussion next to it, which has the kick drum, actual kick drum with it.
Right.
But for me, it was a decision of, first of all, if I play drum set, I'm led kind of into a lot of cliches, because it was my first instrument. I can't find myself in that instrument now. I just find cliche and specific directions. Whereas with the new Mapex setup that I've got, I have to think about everything. Every single decision, I have to kind of rebuild and reconsider how I'm going to approach it. So it means I can approach the instrument in a more lyrical way, in the way that I do percussion.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to find my percussion voice through that instrument. And that's working really well by having that setup. And also, you can't be really busy because everything's kind of quite linear and is kind of really based on what you can do with your hands.
Cool.
I think it's great to think outside the box as well, because obviously, I'm very lucky. Pearl are brilliant with me, but they what the gigs I do is mainly more pop and playing with the drummer orientated, whereas Pete would go out and be a solo artist, does lots of clinics a lot more than I do, and it's usually me, just the normal run-of-the-mill stuff.
Well, talking of clinics, and you probably needing to be in one after you finished.
Very much so,
You started with the Happy Mondays.
Yes.
So let's talk. You must have some Happy Monday stories.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. First of all, I was playing. I was a drummer. Played a lot of drum kit and playing with people like Ash Sohn in Manchester at the time. He was at Salford, and Andy Treacy and people who were my friends. And I just thought, I'm not going to get a gig on drums. So a friend of mine was playing in a resident nightclub in Manchester called the Ritz, and they had a full band. It was the last ever band. And what happened was I got the gig as the resident percussionist. So I got the gig as the resident percussionist, and then from there I started working with Rowetta. Rowetta's band, her own band, called Pleasure, she's an amazing singer. It's great to work with her, and hopefully we'll be working with her this year. And then from there, I auditioned for the Happy Mondays, because they were getting back together in '98, I believe that would have been. So I auditioned for them in Manchester, and luckily I got the gig, and we did some really big festivals at that time. It was an amazing time for me. They are very, very lovely guys. Bez is a sweetheart. He brought his kids. One remember we went to Australia. He brought his kids, paid for all of his family to go to Australia, and we had quite a bit of time off in the big day out. And all he did was just spend every day, with his two lads, and it was an amazing time. There was lots of comedy moments, as you can imagine. We had I do remember us having having a guy with us all the time called John Warburton, who he's a comedian actually now, but he used to write for the Daily Sport, and he was doing a diary, Sean's diary for the Daily Sport, and he was just, I mean, the amount of times I would be speaking to people and he'd just come over and then just fall flat on his face, just completely drunk, and but it was just, I mean, I could go on forever, could be here for an hour. I mean, food fights, I remember a food fight happening in Norway at the Christian Sand Festival. They just decided that, I remember Garbage were on and we just played and we came off backstage and all of a sudden, I still remember Paul Ryder just going, let's have a food fight. And he just started throwing things at it.
Let's do it now.
Yeah, let's have a food fight. And it was just like surreal. But amazing time. It was just, that led on to so much things for me, and it was just an amazing little step on the ladder for me to play with them,
Okay, well, I think...
Yeah, so unlike Mike, we both performed in the closing ceremony. I think Mike's problem was after the opening they didn't want him back.
Yeah.
So I remember a lot from the closing ceremony, but obviously you played there as well. I was wondering, what was the craziest, weirdest experience you had?
The craziest, the weirdest experience for me was we got there very early, and as people probably won't know, is you have to go through like an airport, like a military, and they search your bags, and
you have to have all accreditations and everything.
Very much so, yes. And so we went in there, and you were sort of in a compound, and you couldn't leave there. The amazing thing for me was I remember just going into the catering, and everybody was there. David Beckham was there, and it was great to watch. I watched the Charity Shield with Liam Gallagher, who I've known since I was young, and we watched the Charity Shield. We beat Chelsea in the Charity Shield, and then I went back into catering. So I was on a high after that, and I went back into catering, and I sat next to Nick Mason, who I've become quite good friends with, and it was just actually a bit surreal actually seeing him and sort of sat there with him and just talking to him about. There's sort of no pressure. He was a really lovely guy, and it was great just talking drums with Nick Mason, who I never ever thought. It was a bit surreal, the whole thing.
I remember the whole thing being, and because I did the opening, the closing, I think we didn't care as much, so we were just roaming around a lot more and going into areas I don't think we should have been going into.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you looked, it was like Roger Taylor, Mike Rutherford.
If you walked the whole circle in there and you'd run into someone, you'd be like, oh, look, there's that person.
I mean, I was looking for Mike, but they obviously couldn't afford him.
No.
On the closing ceremony.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean...
See, I think they didn't want him back, but
Well, being a Mancunian, it was really good to actually try and get in people's pockets as well, you know, and me and Liam were going around trying to, seeing what we could get, credit cards.
Did all right, did you?
Yeah, it was okay, yeah. Nick Mason thought I was actually talking to him. I was actually...
Right. So Pete, I have three things here that are all yours.
Yep.
One, I'm very, very interested to hear the story. But first of all, we're going to quickly mention your new app.
Yep, got my app.
Your app that's come out that they can buy on iTunes Store, the Drum Jam. And then you also have out this Indian rhythm for drum set, which actually is mainly around Indian tunes now. And actually, there is a CD in there, and I have had a flick through, and it looks really, really good. However, I am actually more interested in this book that's all fictional that you've apparently written. Is it going to be like...
What do you mean apparently?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Apparently.
Is it going to be like a Harry Potter series, or are you going to have all these different series books, and it's going to become a big bestseller?
It's open in the sense that, there could be, it could be, more installments, shall we say. But, I mean, it's kind of like my first novel that's been released. Although it's not the first novel that I've penned. I wrote one when I first came to London, but it didn't work. It wasn't. The story was good, but the actual writing wasn't that good. But that was the idea of two people travelling through time in opposite directions, and they had to meet in the middle. Otherwise, neither of them would exist. That was a good idea. But so this is kind of also has a little bit of a time travel thing, but it's kind of like an alternative look at the afterlife and immortality, and it's quite.
It's going to be a movie as well, and
I'm
doing the soundtrack.
Pete doesn't know that yet.
No.
Well, I've actually got a question, and you don't know that I'm going to pull this one out as well. But goalkeeping gloves.
Yes.
Lee, what is a percussionist or a drummer?
Well, they sound great when you play congas with those. It's like a silencer, like in your hotel room, like Steve Smith did the thing with
but seriously.
My other passion, obviously, is apart from music and percussion and drums, is football. And as most people know, I'm a Manchester City fan. And I've been
one of three.
I've been very lucky to work in a coaching role at Manchester City. I worked there for nearly 20 years, and redone all my badges because I'm old, and I did them first of all, and had to redo them all again, which I'm surprised I passed because it nearly killed me. But these are Kasper Schmeichel's goalkeeper's gloves. Kasper's a very good friend of mine, and as in Peter is a very good friend of mine, his father, the great goalkeeper. I used to give him drum lessons when he lived in Manchester.
To the point at which, when there was penalties sometimes, Schmeichel would set the drums up in the goal.
Yeah.
China's up like this.
That's why nobody,
and everything.
Nobody would ever score.
Couldn't get past him.
He was amazing. But also Kasper is very musical as well. He's a lovely lad, a great goalkeeper, and I hope Leicester stay up.
Cool. Okay.
He plays the kazoo, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, so we're going to move on now to the main, one of the popular features of the show is Yard. So I can tell you right now, this one's a very good one this week. So Yard, what do you have for us this week?
Hi Mike and Gill. You are today in Yard, up here in my workshop where something happens. I'm not sure it's magic, but we'll get past that one. This is where we do all of our repairs, and it's upstairs away from all the drums and things, so we keep the dust down to a minimum. But we're going to show you some different shell types, bearing edges and things. And I must stress to start with that I think today we're getting too technical and we're getting away from drummers enjoying themselves and just filling their heads with too much technical stuff they don't really need to know. And so what we've got here is, the first one is a 10-inch tom from a Yamaha 9000 series, which are possibly some of the most recorded drums in the world, and fantastic drums. And if you can get an old set of 9000s, you're doing well, and you'll be able to record and tour with this for many, many years. You don't need to buy a new kit every year. And then we've got a 60s Trixon, and then we have a 70s Ludwig shell, and then we've got a 70s Premier Royale. And they've all got different bearing edges on, which the companies have obviously worked out, and it's down to you to decide when you go into a shop, if you ever get into a shop, is to just hit the drum, each drum once, and decide whether you like that sound or not after a little play with the tuning key. And you don't need to know what timbre it is, you don't need to know anything else other than it sounds good to me, put it in a box, I'm going to take it home. And that's it really. You need to simplify everything about drums these days. So we've got different types. We've got 45-degree bearing edge on there. We've got nothing on this Dave Carrera brand new shell that he made for me. And he's a superb craftsman, but unfortunately he's had to retire due to ill health, but he makes fantastic gear. But today's world is full of fantastic machines, fantastic computer programmers who can do anything. So basically nothing in 60, 70 years has changed in the way shells are made, apart from the machinery and the different types of glue now that's at our disposal. So with all of it, it's basically nothing's changed. We've got a round over bearing edge on this Premier Royale, and basically a 45 on any kit will serve you well, and you'll always get a good sound. But the art of what I do is finding the right head for the right drum, because they don't suit every drum. So you need to find stuff like, for me, pinstripes didn't really work on DW, but smooth whites and ambassadors do very well. So you need to mess around, do some testing, and when you're not playing, just get into your studio or into your garage or wherever you do your drums and try things out, or listen to someone else's kit, ask them what they're using, and then you'll find that you'll calm right down. And it's not a case of if the bearing edge is 45 degrees or 30 degrees, it just depends on the sound that you want and whether you're happy with the heads and things, and then everything is just down to you and not what your drums are made of. So take it from there, enjoy yourselves, and buy yourself a vintage kit, because the shells are a lot mellower, if that's the sound you want, or buy birch toms if you want a sharper sound. It all depends on the music you play, but most importantly, enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Yard. Very interesting.
Right, so now we're going to cross to the stick, and he's going to play 2 instruments for you both, and you're going to have a listen and see which one you prefer best. So both this week are actually hand percussion instruments. Product A is made of wood and has multiple playing surfaces which give it a mixture of textures and sounds. And product B has multiple playing surfaces as well, which produce a bass and snare sound to give a more comprehensive kit type sound. Those are both for you. I'm going to ask Stick now to play number A. And B. Right, so before we reveal them,
Now the building work's done.
right, so before we show them both to you, just want to get a sense of which one you liked, A or B.
Personally, I preferred A.
A?
For the simple reason there was more tones. I don't know if that was anything to do with the amazing sticks technique, but I think it was more. I think I preferred A rather than B, just because of the tonal differences.
Yeah, me too. It was a well staccato, kind of interesting sound. A little bit birchy, I think, the second one. Probably a cajon and.
I thought it was more maple or mahogany.
Yeah, no, it's birchy. Very birchy sound. You could tell. It's too birchy for me.
Birch.
Does the stick need some percussion lessons with you guys? Is that
No,
what,
I sounds pretty. Sounds rocking.
Sounds great.
To me.
Sounds great.
All right, so we're
Yeah.
going to reveal both of them now, and I'll let you know which one what they are. Right, so you can have a look around now. So product A is the white 12-inch Pro Tube with an internal XLR connector and mic. It's priced at about £245. The acoustic tubes with no internal mics are also available, and they come in 9, 12, 15 and 18-inch sizes and have 3 colours of black, natural and white. And product B was a Schallwreck 2-in-1 Cohesion made in Germany. When the surfaces are played, the spiral vibrates in a controlled manner and produce a modern snare cohesion sound. The spiral technology can be removed from the 2-in-1 cohesion and in a one quick movement, and the cohesion then produces a traditional Cuban sound, which...
And birch as
Can you
well.
repeat that?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
No, I'm not.
So the tube over here, then that's the one. By
So that
Dylan
was
Duffy.
A.
So
Yeah,
there's your time to find
Yeah,
out where
well,
yours is.
I actually saw Dion. I know Dion quite well, actually, from me teaching drums to Peter. And I saw Dion perform that at the drum show with Emily last year at the drummer at Olympia. And he said to me, I've been asking him for one for a while, actually, and he said to me, oh, wait there, I won't be a minute. So he goes in the back and he's sort of dead excited, I won't be a minute. So he goes in and he looks in this box, which is about the same size as one of those, probably that he played, and then he pulls out a Shaker one and goes, which colour do you want? It's about that big. So Dion, I'm going to take that one home with me on the train back to Manchester. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. After the success of last shows with Brent, Brent, what have you got for us this week?
Hey, Mike and Gill, thanks for having me on the show. I'm Brent Barnett, product manager for Gibraltar Hardware. I also host a show called Brent Hang. And in this episode, we flew down to Miami, Florida to meet with Omar Tavares, who's the drummer for Pitbull, and to build his custom rack for their up-and-coming Pitbull tour. Now, this rack is a perfect example of how Gibraltar combines function and style all in one. We're working on a new rack for Omar, as I mentioned earlier. We're doing a rebuild and a redesign. What kind of design have you been using over the last few years?
I guess that we'll start with, it was like a low profile look with some bars on the side that kind of just bent out, kind of like a spider look. I think we did that back in 2011. I've added a few extra things now where I have some effects symbols along the front, And so we had to add a bar with like a two-tier situation so that we can, it looks a little, cosmetically looks cooler. So we did that across the front. That's the only thing we've
added a bass drum to it since.
Yeah, we had one
first
bass
started.
drum and then we added 2 bass drums to get kind of like this rock star look. It expanded the rack a little bit, but not too much. And I'm sweating. There you go. Welcome to Miami.
There's Omar's rack in shambles. And I saw a tear come to his eye. He's kind of sulking right now. He's a little sad, which understandably. But we're gonna take pieces of that and pieces of that and come up with something even better and even more different. Look, he's smiling again. So what is your vision for what you want to do with this new design?
Man, I want to try something where we keep kind of the same concept a little bit, but just modify it and give it more of a kind of like a roller coaster effect along the front and around the back, kind of like a space station. Like, we're going to sit behind this cool looking cosmetic thing where I look at it and go, oh, I'd love to play this drum set.
My thoughts from what you were describing is to kind of start out, we'll have two sections of it, like there's going to be an inside section and then an outside section.
Yeah.
So the inside will kind of do
Stability.
The frame, the basic frame of the rack, which is you won't see from the outside because the outside is going to be the cosmetic portion of it. That's going to be the roller coaster look.
Absolutely. But we're also going to have some support bars at the bottom.
Yes.
Which will hold everything together, and then we'll have the second tier would be the where we're going to be racking everything off.
Right.
It'll look cool.
So we got a lot of options here to go off of, and let's play around with it.
What is going to stay the same, obviously, are the way the toms sit, and all the drums themselves, the actual shells will be exactly the same way, but everything else around it would just be modified.
We'll keep the cymbals in the exact same placement,
height.
how you need them.
Exactly.
We'll just play around with different ways of mounting them.
I love it. Gibraltar. Now loud. Gibraltar.
What an awesome day! It has been a full day. As you see, it's dark outside now. It rained a little bit and cooled us down, but we came up with a really cool design. Our idea worked to have kind of a roller coaster type of effect. Dude, you need a little train. It goes right over the top. And it says Omar on the train.
With an LED on it, yeah. It keeps on going across. That'd be badass.
Wow. Miami in mid-August. Just watching that's making me sweat again. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys. So, show and tell. Pete, what have you brought for us this week?
Well, I've got 3 things for you. I've got a sweatband and a pillowcase and an iPhone.
Hopefully you're going to explain.
Okay, so the pillowcase, these are vital touring additions. So basically, whenever you travel economy on a flight, if you take a pillowcase, and you can stick your coat and a couple of other pillows.
And nick stuff.
Nick other people's pillows from their seats.
Yeah.
And so then you get like a nice proper pillow with a nice cotton sort of vibe on it.
Why haven't I thought of that?
Yeah, and the other thing is you have to take these, because if you try and sleep on a plane and you've got the armrest, it's impossible. So you have to put the sweatbands on the armrests, and then they're comfortable.
How did you learn this?
Deduction.
Wow.
So the third thing is my iPhone. I've invented this photo called the selfie. It's kind of the latest thing. No, this is the thing. When you are touring, sometimes particularly in India, you have like really early flights, like 7, 6, 5 in the morning sometimes. And my alarm clock just wasn't cutting just didn't do it for me. So I had to, in Logic, I had to make my own alarm sound. By multi-tracking various things. Now, obviously, if you're sleeping, you want to wake up gently. So, we start with, beautiful birds, very nice, gentle. But that's not going to wake you up. That's not going to wake you up. So it kind of gets a little bit more intense. Some nice running water. Make you want to have a pee when you get up.
I do now, actually.
So then, obviously, it's still not working. So what happens is, as we go through it, we start to add fire alarms one by one. This is 5 minutes long.
Can't think of anything worse.
So this is my touring alarm clock.
Do you put your phone like away from your bed so when you get to that noise it makes you get
No,
out?
I put it next to the head. But the other thing is you have to have something like white. I learnt this from Dave Weckl, is that he always travels with a white noise machine. So you always have to have this going all night. And then if there's noise in the room,
All night.
yeah, you leave that going all night with the earplugs and the eye shades, you know. But you have to have that going all night, because then if there's car noise or people next door, you know, noise going on, it covers it all up.
How are you still married?
I bought her some earplugs.
Okay, Lee.
Well, say my partner would love that. Yeah, she'd love that.
Lee, what have you got?
I'm very proud of this. This is the artist pass from Olympia, which I played at the London Drum Show with Carlos. And of course, I was very lucky to be invited by yourself, and Ash and Jeremy and Phil Gould was on at the same time, so it was amazing for me to play at that. Very nerve-wracking, but obviously Pete was on the same year as well, so it was great. The little story I've got behind this is just about things that go wrong when I tend to be there. And before we were headlined the sort of Saturday one, we were last on at 4 o'clock, and I was quite nervous, and I needed the toilet before we went on. And just outside the green room, there's a little corridor and a toilet, which I got directed to. I think it might have been from yourself, actually.
You never got the message.
No. I went through the doors and turned, which I thought was the toilet, and actually walked into this room. And I thought it was dark. I thought, oh, the lights are just going to come on, you know, the automatic lighting. And as I walked in, the door shut behind me, and it was actually the broom cupboard. Bearing in mind, we only had 5 or 10 minutes, probably had about 5 minutes before we were due to go on. So I'm banging on this door, help me, let me out. And it was obviously, somebody could just easily open it from the outside in, but I couldn't open it at all. And I just had this, I just thought, just for once, you know, just please let it go right. And luckily, this, a very small child sort of opened it and sort of looked at me as if I was stupid. I was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, thanks. And he was like, oh, it's all right, you know. But anyway, that's my little show and tell thing there, because I don't think I'll ever live that down from Carlos, actually.
Broom for improvement.
Broom for improvement, indeed. Oh,
dear. Okay, so this is use it or lose it. Okay, so this is a couple of products that I've got here. Couple of gadgets I've come across. Would you use this, keep it and put it into your gig bag, or would you bin it? So we've got this Whim stick mount, okay? So it can be put on any bass drum rim. Put your sticks in there, change the size of the grip, so you always know where your sticks are.
Would it actually fit onto your bass drum, though?
You fit it on a bass drum rim with the thing underneath it, yeah.
I think it's quite a good idea, actually. It'd probably be good for toothbrushes as well. You could probably mount it, you know. You could probably mount it with toothbrush. You could put all sorts in there.
Fireworks.
You? Fireworks, yeah. Never return to it. Just light it.
Very good at fireworks. It's too big for me. It's another big additional item. But the other thing I'd like to think is that you can fit it on loads of different things. You know? Like, you know, that's only designed to go onto a bass drum rim. But, you know, certainly as a percussionist, it would be useful to have it, you know.
Yeah.
Put it on, you know.
You couldn't find
an Apple
wrist
stick holder,
yes,
for example.
You couldn't find any use for that on the airplane on your long haul journeys.
Maybe inside the pillow. Yeah. It's not for me really. It's too big. It's
okay,
big additional item.
So we've got this product for the touring musician.
Yeah.
Okay, and this may look like a big lump of rubber. Okay, but actually, what it is an amplifier for. So there's your sound. Ready?
Yeah.
You can stop the music if you want.
I'd never get my CDs in that. I just don't see where they would fit.
Yeah, that's for cassettes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's the right size for a cassette.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't look like it's meant to be used like that. I know when you showed it to me, you went, "What's this?" I went, "I don't know."
It's big, isn't it? I mean, it's
we throw
rubbery.
them through windows in Manchester.
It's rubbery, but
Yeah.
it's too big for me. Yeah, I mean, I can't see it myself.
So again,
especially you can get those little speakers that you just put on.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And,
As a doorstop, it'd be great.
Could you not use that on any airplane?
But yeah, actually, you could for the seat blocker.
Yeah, you could do that.
There you are.
Stop the person in front.
Or if you moved it, you know, when the plane actually goes in, you know, it gets towed out, so out the terminal.
Nick the
you
phone.
could put that where the plane.
Nick the phone.
Oh yeah. You could actually, you could actually, just you could stop the plane wheels with it. That'd be great.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and being my guests or our guests tonight.
Thank you for having us.
And
I'm speaking for him. I don't know if you think.
We've got to talk about our album.
Oh yeah.
well, go on then. Come on, you've got to
okay, well, just very quickly, this is
your camera.
Very quickly, this is an album which is available on iTunes and Amazon. Lea Mullen album featuring Louis Conti, Pete Lockett, Bashiri Johnson, Sergio Gallardo, and Dave Hassel, Chris Crooks, and lots of other people, Steve Rigby. Please go and buy it. This is a great percussion album. And also,
I'm playing on the CD.
That's great. We're actually in the midst of the second project.
In the midst
of a second project with Mino Sonello.
Yeah.
Trio. A trio, yes. Pete and I and Mino Sonello for... Pete and Mino are going to make it sound great, and I'm just going to play on it.
And you're just going to bring the pretty face.
I'm just going to bring the pretty face.
He's doing all the dancing moves.
I'm doing all the dancing moves.
Okay, is that it? Is there any more plugs you want to do, or is that it?
No.
You're fine?
Yeah, no, that's it, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.